when I invented the show, and when it was bought by the network, I could have done anything. I gave the copyright to the Actors Studio. I do not own Inside the Actors Studio, to the dismay of my agent.
Make some noise for Jim Lipton.
James Lipton, you may know him as the creator, host, and executive producer of the hit show Inside the Actors Studio, but he's also an accomplished actor and a writer. I sat down with him in his Manhattan apartment to discuss the show's upcoming 250th episode, and I got an inside look at the show and his career.
Long run for you. Tell me about this episode and what we can expect.
You can expect everything. This episode is different from anything we've ever done before because we turn it over to our viewers in 94 million homes in America on Bravo in 125 countries, and to our former guests, some of our former guests, and to some of the notable people we know who watch the show and who had commented on it in the past. So we went to them in their homes, in their workplaces, and with a crew like this one. And I talked with them, and we caught up on some things, and they picked their favorite moments of the last 18 years. In other words, the world and these special guests cast the show for the 250th episode. It's their choices, not mine. Although some of them, of course, are mine as well. But it's their choices that constitute the cast of the 250th episode. There are 13 of these special guests, and 124 people whom they selected who are in the 2-hour show.
The 200th episode, you were interviewed by Dave Chapelle. Is he in the 250th?
He is very much in the 250th, upstairs in the other living room of this house in which my wife and I live. Dave and I sat on the couch and talked for about an hour. And we have a nice chunk of that in the show where he describes his experience on the show and our friendship, which is very close since then. And he picked his favorite moment from the show and his favorite category of guests, which is comedians. And that triggers a package of retrospective moments that is, I think, just incredible.
There came a time when Norman Mailer came to you and said, you got to see what we're doing at the Actors Studio.
That was life-changing.
And they pretty much pressured you to get involved because I read that you were right in the middle of your third musical.
That's right. I was writing my third Broadway musical. I had no time, and Norman Mailer and his wife, Norris Church, both of them now gone, and they just wouldn't stop. And I went over to the studio finally just to get them to stop calling me and saying, come over. And Arthur Penn was moderating that day, and we knew each other, and he said, oh my God, come on in. He made me that day a member of the Playwrights and Directors Unit. I got involved with the studio, and getting involved with the studio caused me, in the end, of course, to create something called the Actors Studio Drama School, which gave birth to something called Inside the Actors Studio. It changed my life totally.
What if you had not done that? What would you have ended up doing with the rest of your career?
I'm a hard determinist. I believe in cause and effect. And I think that if that chain had broken, God knows what I'd be doing. I'd have written my third musical, which I had to stop doing in order to guide the school in its first year, which turned into a 10-year deanship. I became a university dean, which I didn't anticipate. And of course, I became the creator and writer and host and editor with my colleagues, my team of the show. And all of that, simply wouldn't have occurred. In the 250th, there's a moment when Bradley Cooper and I are talking. He talks about the way in which his life would have been totally changed if I had not created the drama school, of which he was a graduate. And so many things would not have happened or would have happened differently.
You understand commerce. You were the guy who saw this vision for the show, probably not for commerce reasons.
No, it wasn't for commercial reasons, but you're quite right. What I saw was something that didn't exist anywhere else. As a producer, before I became what I do now, that was always my criterion. If I was going to write a music, if I was going to write a movie, if I was going to produce something, the first question I asked myself was, is there somewhere else where the public can get this as well or better? If there is, I don't proceed. With this one, I realized that with the 47-year history of the Actors Studio, and the Actors Studio for the first time in its history, endorsing a degree-granting academic program, because the studio was not a school, that we were filling a void and that there might be a reason for us to exist. The fact that in 3 years it became the largest graduate drama school in America, the fact that our television program, which is nothing more nor less than a master class in a school, would eventually be in 94 million homes in America, in 125 countries around the world, that we would have a record-breaking 15 Emmy nominations, that these things would happen to the show and to me. These facts were utterly unseen by me, utterly unanticipated.
Are you comfortable with being thought of as an entrepreneur or a businessman?
I'm very comfortable with it.
You're also an intrapreneur in the sense that you created this show within the walls of a very bureaucratic academic institution. When it started to look like it was going to be successful commercially, were there any power struggles that occurred because you
Absolutely not. The Actors Studio is a 501c3 academic institution. Pace University is an academic institution. They are by definition nonprofits. The first decision I made, and I have never regretted it for one split second, when I invented the show and when it was bought by the network, I could have done anything. I gave the copyright to the Actors Studio. I do not own Inside the Actors Studio, to the dismay of my agent. But the fact is that they own it, and they are today a very secure cultural institution. That makes me very proud. I mean, look, we're sitting in my home. I'm well compensated, and I'm content. I made a decision, which as I say, I've never regretted, and that it has achieved something for the Actors Studio, and that was what I set out to do.
I'm sure your agent can give you several million reasons why you should retain some of the intellectual property.
Once the head of the agency called me up to his office and he said, "Jim, sit down. Tell me that I'm wrong. You did not give away the copyright to Inside the Actors Studio." And I said, "Yes, I did, but I don't consider it giving away. I think that I did absolutely the right thing, and the studio deserved it. After all, I was calling it Inside the Actors Studio. And I'm very happy with that decision, absolutely." And he agreed, by the way.
Because you have this acting background and that you love acting in the purest sense of the word as a craft,
Yeah.
it could be that we think we're seeing the real Jim Lipton. Or is it an actor? What are we seeing? And at any point, are you acting?
For better or for worse, you're seeing me. I have nothing to gain by acting. Also, much more important than that, the guests who come on the show are not acting. They have nothing to gain by acting. They're in front of actors. They would be exposed by acting. It would make them look rather silly. And so I think that they too are there as themselves. They're there as what? As teachers.
As an acting educator, and the fact that you've done it for so long, do you ever wish, because you love acting, that you were the other person?
Watch Netflix and tell me whether I've abandoned the other world. I'm in Arrested Development, for heaven's sake. I'm coming back as my character from the original show. I'm still acting all over the place.
And is that why? Because you never let go of that love for actually doing it?
No, I didn't do anything to solicit it. They solicit me. I've been on so many I did 34 appearances on Conan O'Brien, doing bits and pieces. Well, you see Conan on the 250th episode. We get into some stuff that will, I think, be memorable.
You've had plenty of award-worthy key moments. Jack Lemmon making that legendary admission on your show.
Yeah, my name is, and I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah. It is as simple as that.
Which I am, incidentally.
Who?
Me.
You're talking as Clay now or as Jack Lemmon?
No, as Jack Lemmon, I'm an alcoholic.
Well, that was a moment. There's a silence, an absolute silence. We just stare at each other. I waited for him to go on if he wanted to. And he clearly had said enough. And then I went on to the next question. And afterward, his wife, Felicia, said to me in the green room, that's the first time Jack has ever said that in public. Well, that's something. These people are really frank. Why are they frank on my show? Because those are students sitting out there, and they don't want to lie to them, and they don't want to abuse their faith and their attention and their trust. And so they tell the truth.
When you do those interviews, are you looking for that headline-grabbing comment
Absolutely
or reflection
not.
when you sit down with people?
No.
You're not?
No. That would distract me. What I'm looking for is those moments and those people in the life of my guest who shaped him or her as an artist and as a person. If you and I were to turn this into an inside at the actor's studio at this moment, I would have done 2 weeks of research. I would know something about you and your life. And I would know, for example, that at a certain point in your life, something happened to you that turned a corner for you, that was important. I would ask you about it because I know it from my research. In responding to me, in describing that moment, that person, that event, that turning point, to our students, you would begin to relive it. It's inevitable. And if you did, you would begin to feel what you felt then, and this would change the whole nature of what's going on between you and me now, and it would really turn into Inside the Actor's Studio.
Are ratings important to you? And do you think about that when you choose your guests?
We've been on the air for 19 years, nearly 19 years. I've yet to call the network and say, what was our rating last week?
It's not something you look at.
They do not call me, and I don't call them, because there's a person named Francis Burke running this network who understands what we're doing. We do bring something to the network. The 250th, you're going to see 124 stars in one night on Bravo. Is that a contribution to the network? Yes. And they know that. That's what they're looking for from us, is a show that they can be proud of.
It's the cachet and the prestige that you bring, the caliber of the interviews, the caliber of the guests. So even if the show doesn't have 3 million viewers on any given week, that's not the focus. The focus is the halo effect, the brand.
I suspect that that's it. I think maybe it has to do with the fact that since we've been together all these years, they know what we're trying to do, and they respect what we're trying to do, and they're appreciative of what we do.
What is the criteria for choosing guests?
I have only one criterion for choosing a guest, and that is, does this person have something to teach my students? That's all I'm interested in. Everything else comes out of that.
We deal a lot on this show with the brands of actors. Some actors and celebrities in general have proven themselves to be very business savvy, and others not so much. And I can remember a place where Paul Newman said, you're not going to be in the right place at the right time, sitting on a bar stool, and someone gives you the leading role. You have to be ready at that time, he said. People think that they don't have to prepare as hard for acting.
They'll just get lucky.
And we're in this internet culture where everyone wants to know everything about their favorite celebrity, including what they ate for breakfast. And a lot of these celebrities are judged and cast in movies, because it is a business, based on their popularity, how many Twitter followers they have. These very commercial considerations. Does that concern you?
It's none of my business. It's not Inside the Actor's Studio's business. You've never heard a discussion on our show that ran along those lines. We just don't give a damn about that. Not in a school, not in our school. That's not our concern. And if producers produce that way, that's their business, but that's not what Inside the Actor's Studio is about. And I hope to God that's not what I'm about.
Do you think, however, that this influences the young actors that are coming up now?
Here's the problem. Over the last 30 or 40 years, Hollywood has moved in a certain direction. They're looking for movies that have what are called legs. What movies have legs? Movies that appeal to very young people. Why? Because very young people are the ones who go to movies more than once. And so there has been a process in Hollywood of lowering and lowering and lowering the age level of the people at whom they're directing their product. The result is that they make movies they'll make a movie, you go to a studio today with a beautiful $25, $30 million movie, you'd think they'd jump at it. The kind that used to make Hollywood famous and rich. They're not interested. Bring me a $150 million movie that will appeal to kids. And the second result of it is, as far as actors are concerned, that in order to appeal to that younger age group that will give a movie legs, they want young actors. Well, if they're hiring a 19-year-old actor or a 20-year-old actor in order to appeal to those people and turning that person into a star, when did that person have time to learn his craft or her craft? And so they have to learn where? On the job. Learning on the job in our profession means learning in front of a camera, in front of millions and millions of people who can see all of your mistakes and all your scars. And the result of that is that where 40, 50 years ago, the Paul Newmans and the De Niros, the Pacinos, more recently, these Marlon Brando long ago, where did they came from the theater. They came from the acting classes. They had put in the time before they ever made their first movie, so that when the time came for them to make the movie, they were ready. Luck is the residue of design.
So over time, what will happen to the craft of acting in cinema?
It does harm. Some of them, a few of them, the very young ones, happen to be geniuses. So of course geniuses emerge. Some people come up and they're just bang, you can see it right away. They've got this gift, and somehow they're going to get through it all.
There haven't been many actors that have chosen not to do the show. Marlon Brando was one of them.
Yeah.
There was another one who chose not to do television. Who was that?
Well, Leo DiCaprio doesn't do, no, Nicholson. Leo DiCaprio doesn't do television, Nicholson doesn't do television. And Jennifer Lawrence recently, she said she absolutely loves the show, but doesn't think she's ready. So I'll have to wait for her.
There isn't a lot that you haven't done. When you look at your career, what's missing?
I don't think of it in terms of doing something else. I like what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. I would just like to do it better.
Thanks so much, Jim. And congratulations on your 250th episode coming up May 29th. You excited for that?
More excited than I've ever been about any other show, because it's the first time I've been able to present 124 souls in that show. Normally it takes me 2 weeks to prepare a show, a night to shoot it, and then 1 or 2 or 3 weeks to edit it, right? I've been doing this one since last August. I've worked hard. I hope I've been okay at it. And I love the show with all my heart.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lee.
And with Jim Lipton, executive producer and creator of Inside the Actors Studio, I'm Lee Hawkins. We'll see you next time.
Learn, 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 study, 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 learn all the things you can, experience all the things you can. Those are arrows in your quiver. Eventually you'll take them out and use them when you're an actor. To be one of 5 selected from the world of cable and broadcast television and from that vast universe out there, and to say you're one of 5, that's not enough. I would be an ingrate if I weren't grateful.